This week, our topic is what is a product? And John, I have to say, I was almost expecting to get a question from you saying, clarifying it after the last very big, broad question I had. But, this one, I came out of the gate with it. This goes back to product management training, right? When there's the whole concept of what is a product. And, Steve and I were thinking it could be a fun conversation. I was looking forward to all the great comments we were going to get on the Monday thing. And so I said, I'm going to beat Jason to it this time. I'm going to go in, I'm going to answer it. And the first answer was mine. A product is a solution for a persona's problem, including all components necessary to fully solve that problem, the whole product concept, and the persona's experience throughout the process. Experience was part of the product. And I'm like, I was looking for all these great takes on what a product is. And Jason just goes, ditto.
Yeah,
Ditto?
right.
I mean, you did kind of comprehensively answer the question.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it. And it was a Monday morning. I mean, I don't know what you expected from me.
But it is interesting that people, I'm amazed the number of times I talk to people who have no definition or their definition of product never includes personas or problems. And they say, "Oh, Steve, you don't understand. We make products." And I'm like, "Well, okay, what do you mean by product?" And they certainly don't mean the whole product. What they mean is, I make a small application, or I make an applet within a bigger application. And in my world, people really seem to struggle with. They think software equals product, and like services don't qualify because services aren't software, so therefore services aren't products. And I'm like,
Steve, don't jump ahead of the deck.
I'm sorry. I don't. Oh, you didn't share anyway.
You were doing a coaching session. I didn't want to bother you with it, but yes.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Fair enough.
See, the interesting thing, there's the old, is it Theodore Levitt? They're not buying a 1/4-inch drill bit; they're buying a 1/4-inch hole.
Yeah.
And then, I'm assuming Rob's would take that to the outcome base. They're actually not buying a 1/4-inch hole. They're doing something with that 1/4-inch.
I want to hang a picture.
I want to hang a picture. I want to build something. And I'm going to use that as the pivot into the addendum. First addendum we had was from Rob, talking about the psychological behavioral aspect of it's not just the problem, but there's a want related to that problem.
Right. And
the whole pains versus gains, right?
Yeah. So I had, but I turned it into a job. If you notice, I turned it into a job to be done in my longer explanation, which is if I'm hungry, I'm hungry because I don't have access to food. So, my want at that moment is to satisfy my hunger. The problem is access to food. The solution could be a vending machine, where I am. So, or location. So I sort of turned it into, because when I read through it, because I thought, Grant, I thought you nailed it. Then I said, hold it. What about the want and need, and how does all that turn into, and you can get carried away with this, but I do think that for me, it's all, I always tend to focus on outcome. We build things to satisfy, my features derive a benefit that satisfy the outcome that a potential customer or existing customer is trying to achieve.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I've got a slide. I don't know if Steve probably has seen it, if anybody here has it. And I've probably told the story, so if I have, just tell me to shut up. At the shopping center where we go grocery shopping, there's a Domino's 2 doors down from a Originals Pizza. Did I tell the story?
Not to us, but I know the story.
And been there 10 years. We've lived here 10 years. And on the Domino's, it's $7.99 takeout pizza. And so when I teach my growth strategy class, I talk about, how could these two companies compete, right? Originals and Domino's, they sell the same product, right? They sell pizza, flour, yeast, water, let it rise, make it into a circle, put some tomato sauce and seasoning and cheese on it. You got pizza, right? If they sell the same product, how can Originals survive 10 years, right? Charging twice as much for a pie. The reality is they actually solve different problems, right? Domino's predominantly solves a takeout food or a delivery food problem, which until recently, it was pizza places and Asian food places that did that. Now Uber Eats and DoorDash now create a bigger market there for that. They also, Originals has sit down dinner. You can have wait service and you can order a full menu and that type of stuff. And Domino's doesn't have that. They don't compete in those two. They have other competitors for those. The one place they do compete is takeout pizza. But this is where market segmentation comes into play with the definition of a product. Because I guarantee you, I would never pay $7.99 for a Domino's pizza, and I will pay $15 for Originals, right? The product also has to have some definite, build into it the alignment with the needs of the segment, right? My need is a quality pizza, not a cheap pizza. So I don't know. That was my little rant. Steve's so much better at ranting than I am.
I mean, so the concept there is the problem you're solving is hunger, but the experience, the second half of this, of your original definition, is what changes. Either whether it's a sit down or just even the straight takeout, the experience of eating that pizza is better because it is higher quality ingredients, more care put into the thing. It's not a cheap cardboard, Domino's thing, right? Is that how that fits? Okay.
So it's a way I used to get
that's
people.
The loyalty aspect too.
Yeah, it's the way I like to get people to step out of, it's the same physical form factor, right? Pizza, not Little Caesars. But it's where it's going. Now, I was hoping Greg was going to be on the call this week because he followed up Rob's with this concept of you have to get to the need behind the want. And he was more talking, I want a button here, need or want, right? Which is really a feature request. And I wanted to ask the question, are there different definitions of want, right? It seems like Rob was very much focused on the behavioral psycho outcome version of a want versus a feature request want. And Rob, I wanted to give you a chance to posit on that.
I have to think about it a little bit. Yeah, I would say that I had something when I was 100 years ago when I went through the Duran Institute, way before Six Sigma, when Joe Duran was the god. He gave out this pamphlet or booklet on all the different needs and wants. And I do think there are different levels of wants. I won't be able to articulate them because it's Friday and my head is swimming. But I do think there are, and I do think there's behavioral wants, but I think there's also physical wants. I think there are I guess it's the psycho piece of it, the emotional wants. And I think again, you can break it all down into everybody's trying to achieve some type of outcome based on that want. So I'm buying what's the difference between an Audi and a Volkswagen? It's the same chassis, right? The difference is the label that's on it and how it makes me feel. And so there's a psychological component to what I'm deriving from that. And I think that's important when we build products. It's actually important when we price products, because I may be pricing at a prestige level than at some other level because I'm trying to create the aura of a psychographic need versus or solving a psychographic need or want versus something that's physical with the product.
All right, Steve, mental note. I want to redo our personas and segmentation one with Rob on that call, because I want to ask the question is, we had this long debate about our personas and segmentation the same thing. And, I've had a long going conversation with Steve saying, is luxury auto a persona or is it a separate segment? And you just sort of went there with your Audi VW and add Porsche to that mix, right? So that was just an aside. We'll get back to that topic another time because we've got, there's always many places.
There's so many great car examples, the Boxer. There's so many great car examples. The C Series Mercedes, the 3 Series or less, BMW. These entry level products into a prestige premium brand that allow people to feel like they're driving an E-Class when they're driving a C-Class.
Yeah. Tom, you've been quiet on that. You didn't have an answer here. I'd like to get, you've now heard a whole bunch of us sort of talking about our thoughts on, what is product? I'd love to get your take. What's your thought?
Well, and there's a lot of interesting discussion there. And, basically it still just comes back to, it's a solution or a service to fulfill a need or a want. And then we can split hairs between needs and wants as we go.
Don't jump ahead. You're jumping ahead slides.
Yeah, and a solution or service, it can be fairly broad as well. I mean, we can parse that out as we go, but basically it's something it's something to fulfill some need or want.
Yeah.
And it could be, as you'd said with pizza, it could be that I want a $5 or $7 pizza that I can get quickly, take home, sit on the couch with the kids and watch a bad movie. Or I want a glass of wine with that at a restaurant and not to have to worry about it and to relax a little bit. It depends on where I am at that point.
Yeah.
And what my need versus want is. So it may, and that probably gets a little further than what you want right now, but
yeah.
Product versus product management, where product management defines that, and it's going to be different for every situation.
Each segment and persona.
And that's where we've got to understand it in depth and figure out what is that solution or service that is needed or wanted.
Yeah.
And define it.
So needs, and I'm a Drucker person, so needs is wants is sort of my language. And Jason last week had asked me to put together a list of books, and I actually put that on the community this week. And John, thank you for your additions to it. There's a book called Grassroots Strategy, which I had on there, which is fairly new. It came out maybe a year ago, not even. Some consultants who did some work with a mentor of mine, my business school professor at Honeywell, they built a strategic marketing program. And in the book, he said, a need is a want with a willingness to purchase, or willing to pay, right? We used to do the urgent, pervasive, willing to pay. And they said a need is a want with a willingness to pay. And I thought it was an interesting way to look at that. I recommend the book if you haven't read it yet.